his purpose was not to do an evaluation, but to inform people about the APA position. Now, one wonders how he knew that the psychologists were not committing any ethical violations, since he talked to no detainees and observed no interrogations. Now, when he took some heat about that, he said, "You have to understand, my purpose was not to evaluate the situation there. My purpose was to look for employment opportunities for psychologists." Now I want you to think about that statement, employment opportunities for psychologists. As far as I'm concerned, Guantanamo is a concentration camp. I see no difference between Guantanamo and any concentration camp. It has the same characteristics. People are taken up off the streets, they're placed there, they're detained with no charges, they're given no rights, they can't see a lawyer, they have no due process, okay, and they're held indefinitely. That's all the violation of the Geneva Convention. It's a violation of international law, okay? And Ron Levand is going there to look for employment opportunities for psychologists in such a setting. To me, these are the kinds of things that have so dramatically shifted my perception of the APA 180 degrees from where it was. In February of '06, Gerald Kuchar, who's then president, because presidency changed every year at that point, so Kuchar became president in '06, wrote an editorial in the Monitor in which, I'll quote him, he said, "A number of opportunistic commentators masquerading as scholars have continued to report on alleged abuses by mental health professionals. However, when solicited in person to provide APA with names and circumstances in support of such claims, no data have been forthcoming from these same critics, and no APA members have been linked to unprofessional behaviors," unquote. Now that represents the consistent APA position throughout, that all information is all a media report, it's all rumor, there's nothing to it, and we ask them for names, they never give us names. Now, this to me shows the manipulative, deceptive modus operandus of the APA. The issue is involvement in illegal detention centers. It's not names. This is not a witch hunt looking for people and saying this person committed an ethical violation. If we know of such people, that's fine, and that should be reported. But what Kuchar's editorial adroitly sidesteps is the issue of whether psychologists should be involved in detention centers that violate the Geneva Convention. He's trying to twist the debate to just give us names and then we'll investigate those names, because he doesn't want to deal with the issue of psychologist involvement in illegal detention centers. It's a total red herring, but it's typical of the way the APA obfuscates and tries to control and manipulate the dialogue. Number two, Dr. Kuchar very well knows, better than I do, that the names of the people who work at Guantanamo and other detention centers are kept secret. On the rare occasion when visitors are allowed to go there, the name tags are turned so that you can't see their names. And Kuchar knows that, okay? So for him to say, well, you don't give us any names, is the kind of manipulative, deceitful practice of which the APA is far too rampant in the way the APA operates. Number three, there is a name, and we've given Kuchar a name. Dr. John Lesso has been identified as the man who not only consulted on, but was involved in the torture of Muhammad al-Qahtani. I don't know if any of you saw that, but Time magazine published the log of al-Qahtani torture, and there was a Dr. L there helping the torturers, and his name is Dr. John Lesso, and that name has surfaced, and it's been given to Kuchar, and there are at least 4 ethical complaints I know of myself against Lesso, and Kuchar will tell you to this day, there are no names, nobody's ever given us any names. Not that it's really important, as far as I'm concerned, it's not the issue anyway, but it's just another example of the way they operate. What the Kuchar editorial demonstrated to me when I read it so clearly, and really broke through kind of the last vestiges of my denial about the APA, was that it has no concern for truth, for evidence of these allegations. There is no concern whatsoever by APA, nor has there ever been by the APA leadership, about what these allegations might be about, whether there's any truth to them. The only thing he was interested in was attacking as viciously as he could anyone who raised ethical questions about APA policy. Ironically enough, on the same month as the Kuchar editorial, February of '06, the UN Commission on Human Rights issued a report, and their report concluded, number one, that there is torture going on at Guantanamo, that there is systematic violation of professional ethics by healthcare professionals complicit in the abuse of treatment. Now, just to give you an example, reports said that in the year 2003 alone, there were over 350 acts of self-harm committed by the detainees there. Massive suicide attempts, massive hunger strikes, okay? Kuchar and Levant never mentioned. To this day, they never mentioned. They will still tell you that all these allegations are news media reports. The UN Commission is not news media, okay? It's another example of the way the AP operates, okay? In March of '06, the Al-Qahtani torture was reported in the Time magazine, the log of that. Again, you get nothing about it from the APA. Steve Miles in his book Both Betrayed, and Mark and Blocks in their 2 articles in the New England Journal of Medicine, both identified the Dr. Ella as Dr. Lesso. I myself took it upon myself to tell Kuchar about Lesso and to say somebody has been identified. Kuchar's response to me was, in an email, was, Lesso's not a member of the APA. So I wrote him back and I said, Lesso is a member of the APA. He wrote me back and says, I don't know where you're getting your information, Lesso's not a member of the APA. Well, you know, I'm a brilliant investigative reporter, right? I mean, I've got really clever techniques. I went to the APA website and I typed in Lesso, John, and up came APA member John Lesso, 1995 to present, U.S. Army. Okay? That's how clever I was to figure this out, right? So Kuchar says, where are you getting the information? I said, from the APA website. So he writes back and says, well, the Penns Committee didn't think he was an APA member. Now I ask you, we're supposed to trust the information of the Penns report, right? We're supposed to trust these people, and they can't go to the APA website and find out that this guy's an APA member and determine that he's not. And this is the report we're supposed to take as justification for APA policy. But Kuchar finally had to give in because I had told him it's right on the website, and he said, oh, you may have made an important discovery, you know? Important discovery. From the website of the APA. Great discovery, right? All right, but this is the way they operate. In May of '06, see, up until this point, what APA said, whenever we say, look, psychiatry's taken a definitive position, we have not, they'd say, no, psychiatry's not taken a definitive position. Sharfstein makes these statements, but the American Psychiatric has taken no formal position, and they were right, that is true. But May of '06, that changed. The American Psychiatric Association took a definitive position, unequivocally, took a stand that is against its members' involvement in detention centers, okay? In addition, the American Medical Association did so, the World Medical Association did so, and the American Anthropological Association, okay? Which, as far as I'm concerned, undercuts the APA stance that, you know, their position really isn't much different from ours. They've never taken a definitive position against it. Well, in fact, they have, okay? Steve Benke, who's here, has written columns saying that there really still isn't that much difference in the positions. That's his view. I'm sure we'll hear from him. But the view of the American Psychiatric is that there is a clear blue line between the 2 positions, because the American Psychiatric says, no, we're opposed to our members' involvement. The American Psychological Association does not say that, okay? What's interesting to me, though, about all this is the Pentagon, 2 weeks later, then said, we are now going to use psychologists in preference to psychiatrists. Psychologists are our preferred experts in this arena, and we'll only use psychiatrists if we can't find there are not enough psychologists, or we need to. It's a sort of a second tier. Right away, the famous Dr. Kuchar sends a letter to the New York Times, which, as far as I know, they never published. Very brief letter saying, look at how the Department of Defense prefers psychologists because of our expertise in this area. Now I ask you, what